am going to call to order the July 15th, 2024 school committee meeting. This meeting is being held in person and or remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. We have Harper Media here recording tonight. Thank you so much. And we are recording for purposes of the minutes on Zoom. Is there anyone in the audience who is planning to record, either online or out in the audience? If you could raise your hand. No. Okay. So moving over to item 2, we have approval of the minutes. We have several minutes to approve tonight. Somebody want to start it off?
Yep. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting held on June 17th, 2024.
I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Allie?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Which reminds me, I am here in person with my school committee members, Matt Cosman, Tim Miller-Dempsey, Allie Anderson, Jen Benham, and myself, Ness Carenti, and participating online is Carrie Nee and Michelle Ayer. So thank you. Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting held on June 26th, 2024.
I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Allie?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay. The next one?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting held on June 28th, 2024.
I will second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay. We'll pause here. Okay.
So under the school committee members present, just need to add Carrie Nee. She was in attendance.
Yes, sorry, Carrie. I know you were there.
Anything else?
That's all for that one.
Okay.
So I will make a,
Yep.
anyone, no? Sorry, no.
Nope.
No. Okay. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting held on June 28th, 2024 as amended.
I will second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Allie?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, last set of minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of July 9th, the Hingham School Committee meeting 2024.
I will second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Knew that one was coming.
Sorry, I'm just
That's
trying
right.
to pull it up so I have something to look at. Give me 1 second. So the first thing, excuse me, the first thing was the same thing, add Carrie Nee to school committee members present. And then if you, I would propose to just add under discussion for the successor contracts, just to specify that it's June 30th to June 30th, 2027. And then there was one, Michelle. Oh, and then also on the second, under Unit B, just add I next to Michelle, Ayer's name, because it's blank.
No, actually, it's on the third one, sorry.
It's right here.
That's-
Oh, you know what?
Yeah, that was the second motion, so.
So it's the third one,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the
Yeah.
third one.
On the third motion.
Add I.
Okay. Anything else, Michelle or Carrie? No? Okay.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. So many minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from July 9th, 2024 as amended.
I will second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Allie?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Oh, no, sorry, Carrie.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you. Okay, so moving over to item 3, this is the portion of the meeting that we have set aside 15 minutes to take questions and comments for items that are not on tonight's agenda. Our practice is to take questions and comments during new business items that are on the agenda. So if you have something related to a new business item, you can hang back and ask your question there. Otherwise, please raise your hand and let me know if you'd like to be recognized, and I will read the statement. Okay, so I do see somebody in the audience, so if you give me one moment. The Hingham School Committee encourages community engagement and welcomes questions and comments as agenda items are discussed at the meeting. In addition, we have set aside up to 15 minutes at the beginning of this meeting for questions or comments that fall under the purview of the school committee and are not already on tonight's agenda. If any guest wish to speak, please raise your hand, state your name and address your comments to the chairperson. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker and must relate to the topics within the scope of the responsibility of the school committee. As established by Massachusetts general laws, the responsibility of the school committee are to 1, select and evaluate the superintendent, 2, review and approve budgets for public education in the district, and 3, establish educational goals and policies for the schools in the district. Speakers are encouraged to present their remarks in a respectful manner and to consider the privacy interest of others. The public comment period is not a time for debate or response to comments by the school committee. The school committee is not adopting or endorsing any of the comments made during public comment period. In addition to this public comment period, the school committee practice is to provide time for questions and comments from the public on new business items on the agenda. All right, I see one hand. Karen Carley, if you can, I will unmute you. If you could state your name and address when I ask you to unmute. Okay, you should have access now.
Hi, my name is Karen Carley. I'm at 226 High Street. I am coming before the school committee tonight to request that we have an item included to the next agenda meeting, and that would be if we could talk about the superintendent in open meeting and on record, because many people have reached out to school committee with their complaints, and many people have tried to work with Dr. Adams, and I feel that we deserve to have our voices spoke on the record during the next school committee, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? No? Okay. Okay, moving over to the next item. Item 4, superintendent's report. Dr. Adams?
So in your packet in the superintendent's report, the school committee, some updates. The school committee building committee met last week, received updates on the new Foster building project and the Plymouth River columns projects. I included presentations from those meetings. They include some great pictures and kind of show you in detail kind of what's happening and how both projects are moving along really well. Matt Meehan, our new director of facilities, is closely monitoring the Plymouth River project, which includes the rebuilding of all of the columns. There's 72 columns over at Plymouth River that are being rebuilt. They have already demolished them. They did that in 2 days, we heard, and are already now doing the shoring of the columns that will then allow them to be built up. They're going to be done in 3 phases. Each section they'll be done in sections, and they do expect to be done by the end of August. He's been very pleased by the receptiveness of the contractor and all the staff on site, and even believes that they may be done ahead of schedule. So we're grateful for Matt's work in monitoring that project. At at Foster, we continue to see upgrades to the front of the building, the outside of the building. They continue to work on Area A with electrical and plumbing overhead, ongoing on levels 1 and 2. Wiring is nearly complete as well on level 1 and complete on levels 2 and 3. Painting is also ongoing. In Area B, painting is almost complete in all classrooms, and painting in the hallways is ongoing. There's some bathroom and tile work in Area B that's continuing as well, and the ceiling grid in the hallways is ongoing. And you can see some of the pictures to get a sense of the work being completed. The committee will meet again in August to hear about the progress again. Especially, we want to make sure that we have everything we need in order to open the old Foster for the beginning of school. I shared some data on the end-of-year chronic absentee rate. I shared throughout the school year some updates around some of the work of the leadership team to reduce chronic absenteeism. This was also a focus of the state. You'll see that all of the schools were able to reduce their numbers significantly more at the elementary level. We still have some work at the middle school and the high school, but you saw that there was some improvement, and the middle school was one of our target schools by the state, went from 13.4 to 9, and that'll be a focus of the work with the principals to continue that work to make sure that our families and our students understand the importance of attendance. You'll also see that with students with disabilities, there exists a significant disproportionality. Our students with disabilities tend to be absent more. That's work also. We want to make sure that we're targeting and supporting both the students and the families at the elementary and at the high school as well. Our disproportionality is higher at the secondary level, so that's an area of need for us that we'll continue working. We've been working with student services to develop a para orientation for the new school, for new paras, a paraprofessional handbook, and we started working on professional development as part of the collective bargaining agreements. Our paraprofessionals will now be part of early release PD. So we've been working on a plan to support that professional development and are looking forward to continuing to provide professional opportunities for our paras to continue to grow in their role. We're launching the new website on July 7th, remembering that that new website will provide for mass communication to families, including text, email, and social media. Training is beginning this week even to help faculty, office staff, and leadership know how to use the program. There's a mobile app that will be coming that will begin doing some work to promote with families as well. And we're excited that it'll be easier for families to access information. Extended school year is in its third week of operations. The pre-K 5 program is housed over at East, and the grades 6 through 12 is actually at the middle school. The program provides for academic programming for our special education students to ensure the continuation of their progress during the summer break. And I'm grateful to Dr. Cataldo for all our organization of the program, as well as all the staff that are working. I've been able to visit every week, and it's great to see the students engaged and routines are well in place.
Dr. Adams, can we also thank facilities for helping us get
Yes.
everything together so quickly?
Yes. And as well as at East and at the middle school, doing a lot of shuffling and making sure the building is ready for the beginning of the year in spite of programs in their buildings as well. We have John Bucky here tonight too, new principal, a new interim high school principal. He's been working closely with Mr. Swanson to support a transition into the new school year. There are two opportunities to meet Mr. Bucky for the community. One coming up Tuesday, July 16th at 7 o'clock. That'll be virtual. And in person on Wednesday, July 17th at 4 o'clock at the high school. So we welcome Dr. Bucky, and I'm glad to have him. And I'm sure there'll be multiple opportunities, including these two, for the community to engage with him. I also included a personnel report. We're trying to do these monthly so the committee can be aware of personnel hires. We welcomed our new director of facilities, Tara Boning, our new principal at South, and Dr. Bucky, interim principal at the high school. It also outlines resignations that we've had, transfers, and open positions that we're currently working to fill.
Thank you very much. Thank you and welcome to the district, Tara and Matt as well, and for everyone who is gone from the district, thank you for your services. I see Rick Swanson in here, and you're not gone yet, so I'm going to keep bringing you back. Yep. Any questions? Matt?
Yeah, thank you. So just a quick question on Foster. The last comment you made was at the school building committee, you want to talk about if there are any potential issues with opening with the existing school. Is there any,
Just making sure the
concern?
logistics, and
Yeah.
we've communicated with the new building project and making sure everything's
Sure.
outlined. There'll be changes in parking.
Yep, okay.
So they're
So all
working on
normal course of
parking,
business.
and they're also working on the new playground. So we
Yep.
want to make sure those are up and ready. Could there always be some issues
Sure,
with construction
yeah.
and there?
But
there
you're not,
could be.
you're not anticipating they're coming with, like, these are the 4 known issues in addition
No.
to just
We are,
having
we
the
want to make sure
complexity
that,
of-
and we did hear at the school building committee, they were on target with the parking, and they were on target as well with the playground, but of
Yep,
course,
yep.
anything could happen, so
Sure.
we want to make sure that there's good
Makes sense.
communication so that the building is aware of any changes in traffic patterns or anything that needs to happen.
And that's helpful, thank you. Then one question on the opening of the new school. When do we think the public can expect a updated timeline? Is that like September of, because I don't know, a month ago we said, you know, it could be Thanksgiving, could be Christmas, could be, who knows? When do we expect an update on that?
Yeah,
You don't know.
I don't.
Yep.
We do keep pressuring them to say,
Sure.
when will that be? The contractors have said they plan to have the building ready by the end of September, early
Okay.
October. Does all the evidence prove they'll make that
Yeah.
benchmark? It depends who you speak to.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
You have a hand.
Yep. I see Michelle Duran. If you can state your name and address, oh, sorry, I think I just muted you again. If you can unmute.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening, Michelle Doran, 919 Main Street. Regarding absenteeism, I had a question for Dr. Adams and the school committee, and I've brought this up before in various meetings I've been in regarding my daughter Anna. Are social determinants of health explored for children who have high absenteeism? If they're not, why not?
I think that what we want to make sure is that we're working closely with families to make sure that they understand the importance of attendance and work to support families that have challenges. That is something that schools work with, principals work with their IST, which is their instructional support teams, and their crisis teams to make sure that students are supported. We want to make sure that those systems are in place. This was work that started at the midpoint last year, and we want to make sure we start right at the beginning, supporting families and students with any particular needs. You want to add anything, Barbara?
No, I think it's really important to know that we recognize that there's a diversity of needs among our families and for our students who are struggling with high absenteeism. We are trying to obviously partner with it, and at the same time this year, Dr. Adams and I, along with a group of other people and Ms. Rodriguez, we're really looking at what other solutions we can bring into the district to support families, because we understand if a child needs some kind of support outside of school before they can return to school, they have to be comfortable in themselves to come back in. We want to try to make sure there's a pathway for them that will lead to success. So we understand that they're out, and we're trying to find solutions for families. At the same time, they're working with their physicians and others to build capacity, but we recognize that it's a long road. The pandemic certainly put apart for kids, really tore apart what was already might have been a shaky situation for them, and now we're trying to rebuild what we want to have them to be able to come back into the schools. Certainly we are working towards bringing that down, but it's going to take some time. It won't be an overnight fix.
I think in some cases, what we were also finding, in addition to health concerns, were mental health concerns. And as you've heard, we've started, as Dr. Cataldo spoke, around what are other areas we can support the social, emotional, and mental health needs, including at our middle and high school, particularly, where we see more anxiety, depression, or school phobia.
Michelle, did you want to add to
Thank you.
that?
I would like to react to that. Respectfully, Dr. Adams, your initial comment when I asked the question was, we want parents, and I'm paraphrasing, to understand the importance of attendance, which is not what social determinants of health assessment is. And, I have never been asked any social determinants of health questions about my 2 kids, or myself, or my family, with my kids in school. So I want to strongly encourage the school committee and everyone who has an opportunity to explore this topic beyond the answers that I heard. Thank you.
Margaret Curran.
Thank you, Margaret Curran, 9 Harborview Drive. Going along to absenteeism, but also coupling that with students who are prematurely impaired, a certain threshold at which administrators are being advised that they need to reach out to parents. I had a student this year who was already more than in attendance at the right time. And so I'm just wondering at what point we're reaching out to parents and asking or inquiring about whether it's tardy or whether it's absenteeism.
Okay, did you get that? It was, you're kind of fuzzy, so I just want to make sure that everybody heard that. Just the question is there a benchmark or a threshold for when the administration or staff would reach out to the families?
Yes, and those are outlined in the school handbooks. And we've done some work. Tonight, we're going to hear from the middle school and high school principals. The high school has it very clearly in their handbook. In the middle school, I believe you did some shoring up of attendance as well in your handbook to really make that clearer. And the elementary is also working on the handbook to make that clearer to families. I think our practice sort of, especially at the elementary, kind of varied school to school, and we're trying to make that more consistent. So we just want to make sure that we're reaching out to families so that sometimes you just don't know, right? Your child's been out a couple of times and you just don't know that those numbers are kind of adding up as the year goes on. And so sometimes you just need a little reminder. And sometimes students need it at valid reasons for being out as well.
Okay, thank you. Karen Carley?
Yes, I just want to ask who the personnel is that will help these children get back into the school system, because they don't feel that it's in the policies or the handbooks of who to contact besides the director of student services, and it's frustrating when you get ignored by them and there's no answers when you're asking, when these parents are coming into the school committee and the administration and asking for help. So Dr. Adams, could you please tell me who in the school district is responsible for bringing these children back to make them comfortable?
The principals work with, we have guidance counselors in every school. Every elementary school has a guidance counselor, school adjustment counselors, school psychologists. Every school has a team. We call them our crisis team, also our instructional support teams, who are meeting to discuss the needs of students. And as a team, they make recommendations and try to discuss what are the individual needs of students to try to support them. And so it funnels through the principal, through all of those members of that social emotional learning team that we have in each school, working closely together to support and create plans to support students.
All right, thank you. All right, so item 5, communications, 5.1, communications received by the superintendent. Anything? No. 5.2, there's no students. They are enjoying their summer. 5.3, other communications, anything received by school committee members? No, okay. Going to move to item 6. No unfinished business, so item 7. 7.1, to discuss a proposed student trip to China in February of 2025 and act as appropriate. And I think I saw Erica Pollard on here.
Yes.
I'm assuming she will be presenting. Hang on one second. Let me ask to unmute. Okay, Erica, can you hear us? Oh, great.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So we haven't traveled to China in quite a long time, and students have been asking, when can we go again? They're excited to use out their language skills. This trip that we're proposing would actually be a joint trip with some students from Situate High School. That's going to help us get the numbers that we need to keep the cost relatively low, and the proposal is for us to travel during February vacation. We would hit the 3 sort of major cities I would consider when we go to China, which are Beijing, Xi'an, and Shanghai.
Any questions?
Do you have the vacation of 2025? Okay.
Say again?
I was trying to find the date.
Okay.
It's February.
February.
We don't have that calendar out yet, so we can.
Okay.
Well, we would, but-
Anybody have questions for Erica? No? Matt, you look like you might have something?
I'm like Googling, this is stupid, but yes, I guess I.
Yeah.
Maybe it's for Erica, maybe it's for others. It feels like our relations with China are not as strong as they used to be. So I'm just here and, I don't know what the next 8 months are gonna look like. What other countries have we sent students to that might be similar to China in terms of like, I don't know, U.S. relations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of, for our students who are studying Chinese, if we want them to have the opportunity to travel to a place where Chinese is primarily spoken, unfortunately our options are fairly limited. Mainland China has been our choice in the past. We have looked into trips to Taiwan. They tend to be more expensive. The cost of living in Taiwan is somewhat higher than it is on mainland China, which is why ultimately the proposal is to do China. It's also because, Situate has 10 students already committed to this trip. That's going to help us to reach the numbers that we need to keep the costs low. But I do agree that our relationship with China is not the same that it was pre-COVID, and that's definitely a consideration.
And what is the mechanism, again, I'm not sure if this is you or Dr. Adams or someone else, if like, let's say we approve this tonight, what would be the process if it started feeling more uncomfortable, I guess? Is that sort of, once we approve, is it sort of your call or to say, we don't feel comfortable?
The final call is always in the hands of the school committee. It would be my strong recommendation if we move forward with this trip that every family purchase travel insurance for exactly that reason.
Yep.
That if things were to change in terms of our relationship with China in the next, however many months, we could make a change without, people losing a lot of money as long as they purchase travel insurance. I do also think, because we are traveling primarily to, I would say that those 3 cities are the safest places in China. They have well-established and easy to find American embassies. Those are places that I would feel comfortable traveling to. There are places in China that I wouldn't advise sending kids to at this point, but we're staying well within all of those places.
Okay, thank you.
I would imagine the provider also is monitoring the situation. They have lots of student groups and groups going, and if they felt that it was unsafe for some reason, they also would provide feedback on that.
Absolutely.
Anyone else on the committee have questions? I see 2 hands up. I'm not sure if you have questions on the trip. I will unmute. Karen, do you have a question on the trip that we're talking about?
No, my question, I actually wanted to follow up with Dr. Adams for my question prior to her superintendent report, and I really wish that I took these heard on record.
Okay, we have moved on to another agenda item.
I understand that now, so my hand was raised, so I appreciate you ignoring me, and I will take this up. Thank you very much.
Okay. Michelle, do you have a question related to the trip? No, okay. Oh, okay. Michelle, can you unmute?
Yeah, I did have a question related to these trips.
Great.
What are the criteria for deciding these international travel trips, aside from safety? Again, social determinants of health is just my background. I just always think about this, like costs and what's available for students and families who may not be able to afford it, and that they're not excluded for equity reasons, but also like safety and other criteria. I'd love to hear that, as I have a son in high school and I'd love him to take advantage of opportunities, but I don't know what the criteria are. Thank you.
Yeah, I can speak about it a little bit. In terms of cost, international travel is expensive, but I really do believe it's a worthwhile experience for all students. With that said, we try our best to work with tour companies that offer financial aid options. This particular trip is offered through Explorica, which offers need-based financial aid to students who apply. And I would be happy to guide students in that direction. I think one of the struggles in terms of getting students to be, is getting students to be aware of the options when it comes to financial assistance. I think many families assume that there aren't supports, and in fact there are. Another choice is through the Global Citizenship Program, which runs its own travel scholarship program. So there is funding available for students if the cost proves to be too much. We do primarily run trips to places where the languages we teach are spoken. That's usually the goal, or places that have a significant connection to curriculum in other ways.
Michelle, is there anything else you want to add?
No, thank you, Erica.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the student trip to China for the dates of February 14th to February 22nd, 2025.
I will second.
All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle? Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you. We have another one, so I suspect Erica will be speaking again. We've got 7.2 is to discuss a proposed student trip to France in April of 2025 and act as appropriate. All right, Erica, you're still unmuted.
Thank you. This particular trip is a continuation of a relationship that we established 2 years ago with a school in southern France. They came to Hingham in the fall 2 years ago, and then our students traveled to France. It was a really great experience for our students. The homestay element of this program is really particularly powerful. They had the opportunity to spend a few days in Paris, also in Toulouse, which is close to the city where our sort of sister school is. So it's our hope that we can continue to foster that relationship between these two schools and send students to France in April of 2025.
Any questions? Michelle, or no? Okay. All right, somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the proposed student trip to France for the dates of April 13th to the 22nd, 2025.
I will second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle? Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Erica, thank you. It's interesting those two trips came up. My daughter took both French and Chinese, and she chose Chinese over French this year. So I'll get to see which one she piques her interest.
Hopefully she'll be in my class down the road.
She's hoping for the same. Thank you so much. Enjoy the summer if I don't see you.
Thank you, Erica.
Yes, you too.
All right, 7.3, to hear a communication plan update and act as appropriate. We're actually going to put this one on hold. We will do it at our August 5th meeting. 7.4, to approve the Hingham Middle School handbook. And if my committee members don't mind, I'm actually going to switch the agenda around. I already got buy-in from Derek so that Rick Swanson could come up for 7.5. It's to approve the Hingham High School student handbook and act as appropriate. So if you don't mind, Rick Swanson, I'm sorry I didn't give you a fair warning.
No problem. It's nice to not have to follow the difficult act of Mr. Smith, as I have on most occasions doing this.
You were sandwiched right in between two
Yeah.
things that he's discussing, so it just made sense.
Right, makes sense. Well, thank you very much, and happy to still be here for another couple of weeks, and to join one, I think, final school committee meeting and present a few updates to the Hingham High School student handbook. Although it's a rather lengthy document that we sent over to you with 24 points, there's not a whole lot of great substance in there. The majority of the points, as you know, I think, from going through them, majority of the points are relatively minor edits, of updated things like names in a few cases, replacing my own name with Dr. Bucky's name for one example, and there are several other places where we update names. We've updated fees. We have included some updates about new programs, some of them exciting new additions. For example, our boys varsity volleyball team, which was new this year, is added to the list of athletic programs. So there's a lot of those types of updates which will come as no surprise to the school committee. I think the most significant changes in here include point number 4, which is a change in the value of exams. It's a reduction in the value of mid-year and final exams at the high school. This was thoroughly vetted at the school level by a number of different groups, including our school council. Lots of discussion among our counselors, among our teachers, and among our department directors. And I can actually say that we achieved really strong consensus around the value of reducing the percentage of those exams in the hopes that it would reduce some of the stress around preparation for exams, but still allow us to keep the positive experience and worthwhile, valuable experience of taking the exams.
Can I just interrupt?
Question,
really
Jen,
quick?
sure.
Are you talking about final exams, midterms and final exams?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, midterm and final exams. So it's a reduction, basically a reduction in half, but still keeping the exams at worth 10%, so it's significant, but it's not as large as it was previously. And I feel strongly, as almost everybody else did at the high school, that this would be a positive move for us. So I think that's probably the most substantive change that we're recommending. There are also a few places where we're trying to recognize the constantly evolving nature of school discipline and of technology. There are a few places where we included reference to artificial intelligence in the section on academic integrity. Previously, the words artificial intelligence did not appear anywhere in the student handbook. They would now with these recommendations. Also including another issue that's become an issue for us, as it has in other schools, among concerns with technology and abuse of technology, the alteration of images. And so wanting to raise this as something that we're concerned about. And then in the smoking and tobacco section, including nicotine pouches, which has become a new concern as well, as much as vaporizers. And although we keep cigarettes, we have not seen a cigarette at Hingham High School in a long time. But nicotine pouches, I'm sorry to say, we see much more frequently now than we ever did before. So some of the changes here reflect just the evolution on student behavior. So that's just a quick summary of the overall points. Happy to take any questions that any of you may have on any of the points, and would welcome your support for those changes.
I see. Do you want to go? Okay. We'll ask Carrie. I'll ask. Oh, Carrie's already. Oh, she's muted. All right, Carrie. Sorry.
No problem. So my question is, and I have the same one for Derek with the middle school. The thinking behind including the emergency removal in the handbooks. I know it's from the state regulations, but why? I'm just wondering why that particular one is included.
When that's a requirement in order by Mass General Law and should be included in order to outline our alignment with state law. And so all we're doing is echoing state law and including that as part of the discipline procedures as an option, and it informs parents that here's the process for emergency removal, as well as outlines what's the requirements of the law. I think you would find in most handbooks across the state, you'd see a section on emergency removals.
I guess I just suggested another section of the regs there, and maybe including that as well, that this kind of goes to the student's rights, if that happens.
Okay.
That's 53.13, that any student who is serving an in-school suspension, short-term suspension, long-term suspension, or expulsion shall have the opportunity to earn credits as applicable, make up assignments, test papers, and other schoolwork as needed to make academic progress during the period of his or removal from the classroom or school. I would just suggest that that be included as well.
Is that somewhere else in the handbook already?
I believe so, toward the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's another section that includes that already. I'm not
Okay.
sure. But if it's not, I would agree that should be included,
Okay, great, thank you.
because that's consistent with state law. When students are out of school, they have the right to be, have access to their education.
Exactly, yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Matt?
So 2 questions. One is on AI, which I feel like is a hard to define, I guess, in general, right? Like even the AI community, and I'm, as you can tell, I'm not an expert on AI. So I mean, I'm reading this sentence and it doesn't necessarily cause me alarm, but I guess I'm curious, the thinking, I could see sort of trying to apply this could lead to more questions. So I don't know, was there a lot of discussion around AI and how we would define it?
There was discussion around how we could address it, but in a way that left some flexibility and discretion so that it could be implemented fairly. So the wording remains, I guess, somewhat vague, but is careful about recognizing that there are potentially some uses of artificial intelligence that would be perfectly appropriate and acceptable. But choosing to reference it here by saying unauthorized use of technology, including artificial intelligence, during an assessment, where a teacher had been very clear that whatever work is produced need to be entirely your own. And then later on in that same section, that including imitation of language is looking at a definition of plagiarism, includes artificial intelligence when representing that as your own work. So that it leaves open the possibility that there will be places where artificial intelligence is used appropriately, and perhaps even with encouragement of teachers. But when it's clear that it is not to be used, as in the case of an assessment, and if a student is representing that work as their own work, then you clearly have a transgression of academic integrity.
I could just add, Matt, so last year, our technology fellows, our secondary technology fellows, we did partner with an outside consultant who led some of the work around AI. As you mentioned, it is an evolving field. So it would be such an evolving field that to name a specific tool like ChatGPT, for example, is a tool that's currently used. But by the time we write the handbook, the next tool will be coming along. I would say related to this handbook policy, the most important thing we can do is some of the curriculum that we've been developing around it. I particularly wanted to acknowledge our English department. As you would imagine, a lot of the uses of AI in writing, that's where the teaching around that acceptable use is largely taking place, certainly in social studies as well. But our English teachers last summer got together and did a really great job of crafting some expectations around AI and gave some very explicit examples of when it is appropriate to use it, when it is not. There's some education around how to properly cite AI. So in the same way, back in the old days when we were doing, I'm talking to the dinosaurs here, writing out our note cards when we were doing research to develop a bibliography. So in the same way, that kind of level of education around how to write a research paper in the era of AI is very much part of the curriculum. So this is, the handbook is getting at the academic consequences, but I think as important are some of the curriculum and instruction that takes place around it. And it is very much rapidly evolving.
Christian? I had the same question and concern, and I appreciate the technology department looking into all of that. And I guess my main concern is, how do you monitor it, and what is the comprehensive criteria? And it sounds like it's going to be that the students will be given that, or will be taught what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate. And I fully understand why it's vague, I guess you could say, in the handbook. But it just, to me, it makes me nervous about the interpretation of what is it going to be, whether if the teacher thinks that, if they just think it was the student was using AI or not, like what is the criteria for all of this? What programs? I mean, if they're using Grammarly, that's considered AI?
Yes, I would say with regard to that, we would kind of piggyback on the current practices that we already have around academic integrity. So students starting in middle school, every essay that they turn in for a formal grade is run through turnitin.com. And that has been a longstanding practice for a decade. And so turnitin.com has been used in incidences of academic integrity when students are copying other students' works. So we have a bank of essays, but it also can be used for AI.
Fan of Turnitin.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Turnitin.
yeah, absolutely. And then that can be triangulated with other tools. But again,
Okay.
turnitin.com has been a longstanding practice. That is nothing new, and has been used widely in English and in social studies and in other departments as well.
That's great.
Yep.
Ally?
And also just following up on that, back to your original question too, in policy, we have started to look at all of our technology policies, and we did go through our acceptable use policies, and last time we approved the community use policy, which kind of piggybacked off of some of that, but we're starting to go through them. MASC has not yet released a policy on AI. They are working on one. We're hoping to kind of get something in place, and then we held off a little bit to do a bit more research and to see what they were recommending, just so that we didn't end up having to go back right after we approved something. But it is something we've been talking to Katie about, looking at what other districts are doing. There really isn't much out there yet, not surprisingly, but also, hitting those same themes that we don't want to put a policy into place that's too prescriptive and focused on specific technologies, and it's more thinking about digital citizenship and teaching the students how to properly use tools.
Anybody else questions, Michelle or?
Can I ask my other questions? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go, absolutely. No, I want to make sure we answer all the committee questions before I take community questions.
So the parking for students, I remember there has been I feel like we've gotten several emails on this, and I'm not really sure. What is the change in the parking from last year to this year?
We're explicitly including reference to the fees.
Okay.
We've taken it as a good policy or
Yeah, okay.
good
So no
rule.
real change other than making it more explicit. On what
Correct,
okay.
correct. The parking processes that the high school employees would remain consistent next year. They'd be the very same as they were this year. I remember a year ago when we were presenting the handbook changes, we were making a significant change.
Okay.
And distributing the close lot spots by lottery. And then we were including, for the first time in quite a few years, a fee for the far lot. This year, we're just explicitly naming what the fee is in the student handbook.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it still just juniors and seniors, correct?
Correct. Correct.
And will they be assigned the numbered spot again? Or-
Yes, yes. On the whole, we found the policy to be effective, and it brought more order to something that had been very chaotic and increasingly chaotic, I think, as more and more students had access to cars. And, more students were driving, but we didn't have any more spots. And particularly as we got into the last 3 or 4 months of the school year, we were routinely and really on a daily basis faced with the reality of not enough spots, students circling as school was starting, then parking in spots where they shouldn't, whether it be a staff spot, a visitor spot, or in the street in the neighborhood. So assigning the spots did bring a much higher level of order to this, and although unfortunately, to the end of the year, there may be people who want a spot, who just got their license, but the spots may be all gone by that point. The next year they'll get it. So it's not perfect, but I think it's our best answer to a complicated issue.
Okay, Margaret Curran, give me a moment. Okay, if you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. This is kind of a little follow-up to what Terry was talking about with the emergency removal. I've been taking courses and workshops this summer through the Federation for Children with Special Needs, both on the new IEP and various other topics about special education, funds, decisions, et cetera. And one of the things that they very clearly said, although I realize there's layers to it, is that when a child is removed from school, it's a suspension. And so I know emergency removal they're, someone because they're sick or something like that would not be considered a suspension, but I haven't seen the high school handbook, and I don't know what changes have been made to the middle school handbook. I wasn't sure if it is a school thing for both students and parents that if a child is removed, I know a child might be kept in school if there was a fight or something else. I can't go through every hypothetical situation, but does the handbook say that that kind of a removal is considered a suspension?
Did anybody get that? That was hard to hear.
I'm not sure I understood it. I wasn't sure I heard.
Is it
You're coming in
considered a
little
suspension?
fuzzy, Margaret,
I think
so
is the
there's a
question.
reason why
Yeah,
we're
we're-
asking for clarification. If I understood your question, I hope I understood the question. You're asking when a child is removed, if they're removed from the school, taken out of the school, that is obviously a suspension removal from school. If they're removed from the class, it still can be a suspension if they're removed from the class. And part of our requirement is to make sure that there's not a loss of work just because they've been removed. I'm not sure if your question is tying into AI, or you've kind of moved
Oh, no,
the
it's not.
discussion a little
It's not
differently, so
AI.
I don't want to insult you in any way.
Yeah, you're better now.
Yeah, better, yeah, right.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes,
that's much
that's
better.
great.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I took my earbuds out, so those clearly weren't so great, but, no, it wasn't about, it was more, I guess, for any type of a disciplinary situation, but thank goodness I'm not in a position where I'm making those decisions, but they were just so clear about making sure that parents knew if there was that kind of a removal of a child.
Yes.
Even if it was temporary, that it is a suspension, and I just wanted to make sure that that's clear for any parents, and should they ever get themselves or find their child in that situation.
Yes, I mean, we have to follow the law, and if we discover that that hasn't been completely followed, then we have to correct ourselves and make sure that we move forward with the correction in place. But when a child is
Okay.
removed, a parent is supposed to be notified.
But I'm saying, in the handbook, does it say that that removal, even if it's temporary, is a suspension? Is it defining it as a suspension?
I think the distinction between emergency removal and a suspension is if, say, there's a fight in school, you know the student for safety reasons needs to be removed.
Yeah.
How long the suspension will be or whether it's suspension will be determined by a meeting that needs to take place.
Correct.
So you can't really call it a suspension until that meeting takes place.
Correct.
And it's established.
No, well, the Federation for Children with Special Needs is saying that even if that child is temporarily sent home for the day, that until a meeting takes place, that is a suspension.
Mm-hmm.
They were explicit in saying that. So
Yes.
that's- I'm asking if that is covered in the handbook.
Yeah, I believe the language we're using is straight from Mass General Law.
Okay.
And Carrie's, I can't find the language Carrie suggested be added in short-term suspensions at the high school, so I think that would be a very good addition. I did find it at the middle school, that
Okay.
they're in.
313.
Yeah, that they're, and I can't find it, I was looking for it under short-term suspension, and we should make sure to add that language.
And I'll follow up and kind of look, I'll look it over. I don't have access to it right now, but kind of taking new information that I was given, so that I just want to make sure parents fully understand and there's transparency and what could potentially happen.
And they're very, very rare. They're done only when there's danger or perceived danger to staff or other students. So they very, very rarely occur.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just looking through it right now. So right now, it has, a student may be removed from the school immediately when charged with disciplinary offense. Let me just read this quickly. Yes, so I believe this covers it. So then the addition in the Hingham High School emergency removal, I believe covers it.
Okay.
But we should add we should make, if we decide to vote on this tonight, we should make a motion to include the language that Carrie had stated.
Yeah, I couldn't find it, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? It's,
Is it code of discipline? Is that what
yes,
it's
that's it.
called?
Yep.
we ready to vote? Okay.
To make a motion.
Okay, great.
I will make a motion to approve the high school student handbook code of discipline 2024 to 2025 with the additional language recommended by Kearney.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Sorry, we're approving the handbook, right, not the code of discipline?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
That's what's called, that's the title of it.
Oh, the handbook, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and I as well.
Okay. Margaret, did you have another question or comment before we move? I just see your hand up, still up. Margaret, Karen, sorry. Okay, that might be up from earlier. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. All right.
Want to welcome John to say, do you want to come up and
Yeah,
say a couple
that'd be great.
words?
20 to 30 minutes,
That's
please. Speech.
Before
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you
for asking.
very much.
And in the event that this is my farewell at this particular podium, I want to thank you for your partnership over a long time. It's been an honor, both as principal and as a citizen in Hingham, too, to know that we can count on this caliber of public service. So thank you to all of you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
How Dr. Adams is going to play this.
Say hello.
Hello. I just want to thank Rick. He has been invaluable to have the overlap of the month from July 1st to August 1st and opening up files and giving me tours of the building and helping me to understand the lay of the land. So I want to give a big thank you to Rick. And there's conversations that you're having about handbooks and parking. When I was a high school principal on Nantucket, my first graduating class was 87 students. So every junior and senior got a parking spot. My last year, there were 143 in a graduating class. And so it was only seniors, and then seniors in good standing, and then we tackled parking a lot. So I appreciate it. And AI, I don't think Dr. Adams or Dr. Cataldo could tell you every conference that administrators are going to these days are talking about AI. And it was like cell phones at the beginning. No, it's bad, it can't be used. And now people are like, how can we use the technology appropriately? So that's more than a hello, but just a little nice to be in Hingham. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And there's 2 meet and greets this week, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so then we have, I know Rick wants to stay and watch Derek, because he's...
He's missing it already.
So I'm going to go back to 7.4 to approve the Hingham Middle School handbook and act as appropriate. So Derek,
All right.
please join us at the podium.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here this evening. And, if Dr. Bucky had stuck around, I'd make sure he realized that I don't often let the high school cut in front of me. So it's only because one of Mr. Swanson's final performances here. Much like the high school, we do have some changes proposed to the Hingham Middle School handbook for the coming school year. I don't know if you'd like me to read through the memo or just kind of summarize. I don't want to insult you by reading what's in front of you. Just to give you the broad strokes, we have updated our mission statement. That work was done. Much of this work was done by our school council. So we looked at our mission statement, tried to bring it forward and look at what's important to us now as opposed to when this was written several years ago. And we believe that we captured what our goals are in terms of student learning and building a community for the students and faculty and parents of Hingham Middle School. We've also, as we discussed earlier, kind of bolstered the language around attendance, and that's found on page 6 of the student handbook. Our previous handbook had, obviously, procedures related to attendance. How do you report an absence? What happens if a student is out? We really tried to strengthen the language about the importance of school attendance, and you can see here that we put first and foremost that it's the parent and guardian's responsibility and right for a public education. We want to make sure that they're taking advantage of that and that we partner with them to make sure that students are attending regularly and that we don't have chronic absenteeism. So this language, while it does delineate what is chronic absenteeism and what steps will be taken if students are absent in excess of 10% of the school year. We want to remember that the stance of the school is to be supportive and not punitive in this, because for the most part, students come to school regularly. They're there all the time. Chronic absenteeism is often a result of students who can't get to school for some reason. And we want to look at what is the thing preventing them from getting to school? Why are they not coming as often as we need them to? And to develop a plan that enlists the parents' support so that we work together to make sure that kids are getting to school each and every day. So you can take a look at that language, and we'll talk a bit more about that when I present our school council plan later on, as one of the goals is around improving our attendance rate. In addition to that, we looked at cell phones. Our focus was not on AI at this point. We'll let the high school kind of hammer that out for a year or two, and then we'll adopt what works for them. We always steal from the best at the middle school. But we are looking at our cell phone policies and how we enforce those. And it's true that at one point, when I first started at Hingham, the language around portable electronic equipment, as we referred to it, focused more on pagers than cell phones. So we've come a long way, and now our focus has returned to cell phones. And while there's been much in the media about the use of cell phones and having cell phones banned from schools altogether, we're just looking at enforcing the policies that have been in place for quite a while. So the language here just kind of outlines what we're doing a little bit differently in the coming year to reduce students' use of cell phones during the school day. And again, the changes are in bold and italic. We are directing students to secure their cell phones in the locker between 7:30 and 2. What we have done previously is said to students the cell phones need to be off and out of sight. And off and out of sight to us up until this year has been in your pocket so that we don't see it, not in your hand, not at the lunch table, not out being used. We felt comfortable with that, but we're feeling that more and more cell phones are intruding upon the students' ability to focus on school, and not just the academics, but the social aspect, the face-to-face interactions that we want them to have with each other. So we are directing students to secure their cell phones in the lockers between 7:30 and 2. We're also kind of clarifying our policies and procedures, I should say, in terms of what happens if students can't adhere to this. Student cell phones will be confiscated, turned into the office. We'll be informing parents and guardians that we've collected the cell phones. If it becomes a larger problem with an individual student, we'll develop plans that will help the students to resist the temptation to access those phones during the day. We will have them leave their phones in the office when they arrive each day. Now, we envision that as a very small cohort of students who just can't put it away during the day. As Mrs. J, one of our assistant principals, likes to say to kids, off and away during the day is our policy. So what we're hoping is that if students can't do what we're asking them to do when it comes to cell phones, we just develop a routine, not punitive, simply drop your cell phone in the office in the morning. You know, we know that students A, B, and C are having a difficult time not using it during the day. Drop it in the morning, pick it up in the afternoon. We don't look for this to be a battle with kids, because we do recognize that cell phones are given to our children. They don't go out and get them on their own. I don't give them to the kids. An adult at home has decided that they want their middle schooler to have this cell phone, and with good reason. We don't want to interfere with that, but we don't want the cell phones to interfere with the school day. We've also struck the language that would state that students who use cell phones and portable electronic equipment during the school day will be subject to discipline, because we don't believe that punishing a student for accessing something given to them by an adult is the appropriate approach to take. So if we can work with them to develop good habits in not using those during the day, that to me is a win, as opposed to an office full of students who have detention because they were too tempted by access to the entire World Wide Web in their pocket during the school day. Those are the most substantive changes to language that we've made. We've added some new language like the high school. We added language around middle school fees, the activity fee, which has been in place for quite a while. These aren't changes to the fees, they're just included in the handbook for the first time. So we have language that outlines the different tiers of activity fees that all families are asked to pay that help defray the cost of after-school activities. And there is an outline of Chromebook repair and replacement fees. These are only obviously imposed when a Chromebook that is issued to a student needs repair or replacement. We have in the past and continue to encourage families to purchase private insurance that would, I think, greatly benefit a family of an 11 to 14-year-old who has a $250 device given to them. They break. They drop them. It's not malicious. It happens. The insurance, I think, really helps out families. But these are the general amounts for repair and replacement that are associated with the Chromebooks at the middle school. And we did also add the language around emergency removal that was discussed earlier. The comments about emergency removal being equated to a suspension will be noted, and the additional language that Carrie had mentioned will be added to our handbook as well. And finally, we did update our language related to the Crown Act in the statements about statements about identity such as race to include traits historically associated with race, including but not limited to hair texture, hair type, hair length, and protective hairstyles. So that has been added to our non-discrimination statements both at the beginning of the handbook and then later on when we are looking at the different civil rights and things of that nature. So those are the middle school updates for the handbook for the coming year.
Thank you very much.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Matt?
Sorry. Okay, so cell phones. I have two questions. One is, this is different than what we're going to do at the high school. If I'm reading through, is that accurate? The high school, it's not a requirement. So I'm just curious the thinking behind. I know you're not in charge of the high school, but why have a different policy at the middle school versus the high school?
I'm not in charge of the high school, thankfully, and the gentlemen who are not here, so I don't want to speak for them. But the use of technology at the high school has to be different from the middle school. And the most important difference between the middle school and the high school is the middle school is and has been for going on 10 years now a one-to-one environment where we issue technology to students. We give every student a Chromebook. The high school is a bring your own device approach, and that device might be for students a smartphone. That is managed by the high school, though. That they decide whether or not the use and access to the smartphone or cell phone is appropriate. Okay. Our students do not need their cell phones between 7:30 and 2. So that's why we're asking them to secure them often out of sight.
Yeah, that's helpful. Makes. Yeah.
Can I just, having high school kids, going to have high school kids.
Yeah. Well,
There
makes
are
it to the
some,
summer.
there are some teachers at the high school that have their own policies in the class, but they have to put their smartphone away before they enter the classroom.
Yeah. Okay. So that's helpful.
I know there was interest in the high school staff at the end of the year to revisit cell phones and perhaps have more consistent policies across the classrooms about how they're handled. So I know that was an interest of the staff, but that came up late in the year.
Yep.
I think for the most part in classrooms, kids are not using them. They may be using them during directed study in the hallway, and at lunch is when you're seeing them most often. Kids are accessing. It's hard to have a policy at a high school of 1,000 students and then be able to sort of make sure it's implemented. So you want to make sure and craft it carefully with staff. So I know that's a concern of theirs because even the students we've heard as part of the wellness committee, they are noticing the use of their cell phones is a distractor from their own learning and their own social emotional learning. So I think that's an area that both the wellness committee and I think the staff are interested in pursuing, and what is the right policy at a high school of 1,000 students. This making sure it's in your locker at the high school isn't going to work. And so
I don't think most high school students use their lockers during the 4 years that they're there.
I don't think one student
So it may be a different way of approaching it in working with the students to help them understand the impact of the use of their cell phone on their own personal
Yep.
health. So it may be different sort of tactic or approach that needs to happen at the high school.
And I would just add too, I have, given the wellness committee discussions that I've heard, I have two girls who are already in the high school and they have MacBooks, and all of their apps that are on their Apple are connected to their MacBooks. I will not make that same mistake with my son, which I'm hoping he's not watching tonight, which he probably isn't, because it all connects, and it doesn't matter whether they have their phone in the room or not, they still have access to all of their same apps.
And at the high school, unlike with the Chromebooks where they can limit what apps are being used and what sites they're connected to at the high school.
So you can
It's
fix
not-
it.
They're not as able to do that.
Yep.
Because of that. And one quick, just admin question on the cell phone change. You have the policy INJDD, the policy on social media linked to it. Would it make sense to also have the acceptable, or the access to digital resources policy as well?
Sure, we could add that.
Just, it's, it just reads more, more than just social media. It's
Mhm.
also digital tools.
Yep, we took the existing policy that had been there previously, but if somebody could just share that policy
Yes.
language with me, I'll make sure that it's reflected with the appropriate link.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Did you have a second?
Yeah, so that's a super helpful clarification. And so as someone who had 2 kids in the middle school last year, just one next year, one coming after, and what I deal with at home, I'm constantly telling them to get off the screens. So like, I am very supportive of this. I think there will be a portion of the community that says, I don't like this. And I know we'll have answers. What do I do if there's an emergency? Why I won't be able to get in touch with my kid? And I'm very confident to say that many of the kids will not like this. Some might. I'm not pointing at you, Jen, or Ness. That was Freudian.
I don't have middle schooler anymore.
But I'm less. I am supportive of this, but I do think there will be a portion of the community that it has a negative reaction to this, not tomorrow, because there's 12 people watching this, but at the start of the school year, especially, probably all 3 grades, I think there's going to be probably an important level setting in advance. And I don't know the right way to do that with people, but I think there will be unhappiness from a portion of the community and concern about, what do I do in the case of an emergency? What if our plans change at 1 p.m.? And I shouldn't say this. I've texted my kid to say, hey, I can't pick you up anymore. You got to take the bus. And, what if the cell phone's not working in that 5-minute window? So I'll stop talking, but.
No, it's great. And actually, to add to that, I guess, is my question, which is similar, is what's going to be the communication to the community? Is it going to happen before school starts, or does it happen this summer?
Sure, and I think we kind of set the table for this at the end of the school year. We tried an incentive program for the very short month of June when we had students. We encouraged students to leave their phones at home and not bring them to school at all. And we asked parents to sign off each day that they sent their child to the middle school without their cell phone. They were entered into a raffle. We picked names each day. Every day the list got shorter of students who turned in raffle tickets and parents who said, but the message was sent clearly at the end of the school year that this is an issue that we're looking to address. I am not looking to interfere with a parent's ability to parent and an ability to communicate with their kids. And I, too, have texted my children while they were in school, back when they were in school. And I know that it's not the best thing to do as a parent. And maybe this will help parents to step back from that, realizing that they won't have untethered access to their children all day long. Our office phones will still be fully functional. Students will still be allowed to use them as needed. And those last-minute changes will very likely be smoothed out after the first month or so, when parents and children together develop new routines to communicate. But I don't expect that everyone's going to stand up and give me a round of applause because of this, because change is never easy for people. But I do think that this is in our students' best interest, and it is it's some blowback that I'm willing to take if it helps our students to look up from their cell phones and at each other at the lunch table during the day, or to not have them in their hands as they walk into each other in the halls during the day. So those are the things that I feel are important for our kids. Technology is excellent. I'm a huge fan. My cell phone is buzzing right now as I speak to you, and I'm tempted to look and see who it is. But we need to teach our kids when and how to access it. And Matt, I agree with you 1,000%. People are not going to be happy with it. Although one of the things that led to this decision was hearing for the people who were unhappy with what their kids were doing with these phones. So
we see the yard sites around Hingham, the wait until late.
And I think that it's a difficult decision for parents to make, and the pressure that's placed on parents from their own children and their friends who have these devices, and well, now that I'm going to middle school, I should have it. That's a decision you have to make as a family. But as a principal, the decision I have to make is we don't need these in their hands during the day to educate them, so let's lock them up during the day. Might also help another issue that we have at the middle school that Dr. Adams can attest to, and nobody closes their lockers, so maybe if their cell phones are in there, they might be more interested in closing those locker doors during the day.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jen, just one little thing, and I appreciate how you have in here that this also includes the Apple Watches, and so that's all smart watches, I'm assuming what you mean by all that. Okay.
And if the cell phone's not with you, then most likely you're not going to be getting those notifications. The range on them is good, but it's not going to cover the entire middle school.
Great.
I appreciate it, and I'm sorry in advance. Thank you.
I apologize to you because you're going to hear about it also.
That's all right. Okay, does somebody want to make a motion? I think there's some amendments that need to be proposed as well.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve this is different call, the Hingham Middle School Handbook 2024 to 2025 with the additional language suggested by Carrie and the emergency removal, and then the addition of the IJND policy title letters. And
Already said.
That's it? Okay, great.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and you're going to stay up there because you're the next on we're going to skip over Rick because he already did it. And then 7.6 to approve the Hingham Middle School Improvement Plan and act as appropriate.
All right.
Welcome back.
Great to be here. First, I want to thank you again. It's nice to be here in July, believe it or not. It's cool, air-conditioned. At home, I have a small dog who's losing his mind because of the thunder, so to be away from that is a relief. And I trust that my wife is not hearing me say that right now because she wouldn't appreciate that. It's a pleasure to be able to present to you this evening the school council update on our previous goals and the goals that we have set for the coming school year. So I'm going to walk you through this. The presentation has the goals and action steps in broad strokes. The complete plan is more detailed, so you can refer to that if you need more information. We begin with the updated mission statement, which again I will not read to you. You can look it over on your own, but it has been updated for the new handbook and will be reflected in future communications that include our school's mission statement. I need to thank our school council members, Katie Carolyn, who was our parent rep and co-chair, Scott McDaniel, parent rep, Don Murray, parent rep, Brett Johnson and Jen Driscoll, who are teacher representatives, Megan McCusker, who's been our community representative from the Hingham Public Library, the support that David Reardon and Allison Janowitz, our assistant principals, gave to us along the way, and Carrie Nee as our school committee liaison. So just to kind of review our previous goals, thank you. Goal 1 from our previous plan was that we would create partnerships between home, school, and community through effective two-way communication to ensure an inclusive culture and sense of belonging as measured by student and parent surveys to be administered in the spring, as well as data collection of the SDQ. We gave a progress update on this previously, just to let you know where things are. Dr. Adams, if you could advance the slide, please. Thank you. We did expand the membership of our school council, which was part of our goal previously. We added a parent member and a faculty member. We have made consistent use of the SMORE digital platform for our HMS connection, collaborating with the Director of Communications to expand our use of the platform and any other communication resources. And we solicit regular contributions from our faculty. And we strive to share that connection weekly. I will admit that there are some weeks that it does not go out on Friday. It doesn't get out until maybe Sunday evening. It's never my plan to work on the newsletter over the weekend, but some weeks it gets away from you. So we will aim to get that out each Friday as we move forward. We are regularly updating, monitoring our HMS webpage. I will be attending tomorrow's training along with administrative assistant on our new web platform and communication tools. So we'll be looking to wrap that into our communication tools in the future. And we evaluated our student handbook, reviewed and updated as appropriate. In progress, we need to develop a tool to gather input from students, faculty, and parents. We have things that we would like to roll out. We did not do that last year and hope to do it in the fall. So the school council will review a survey tool for students, faculty, and parents come in the fall. Our second goal in the previous plan, ensure student success and work to close the achievement gaps for students with disabilities and students in the high needs subgroup through aligned, high-quality curriculum, innovative research-based practices, data-informed instruction is measured by the state and local assessments with a target of 70% of students meeting or exceeding expectations on the math MCAS assessments. So we're still waiting for the results from the most recent administration of the MCAS. I can tell you that the previous year we did not make that 70% mark. We are hopeful that we make it with this one, although we may not. And so what we're doing is these steps that we have put in place to address any sort of achievement gaps will remain obviously in place. We don't consider these types of goals ever really complete. We want to always improve. So Mr. Jewett and I will be looking at the results, doing an item analysis, looking at how we can better align our instruction with student results on the MCAS and any other assessment tools that we've used. And we'll continue to use our locally identified assessment tools, whether it be teacher-created assessments or things like iReady or MyPath that provides us with important data on student progress and performance. So I'm looking forward to taking a look at how our students did on the most recent administration of the MCAS in the coming weeks, and I can give you more detailed information about how we're going to respond to the student performance on that once we have it. Third goal from our previous plan, the Hingham Middle School will cultivate equitable, inclusive environments to promote a sense of belonging, allow for social, emotional, physical, and academic wellness measured by data collected in the fall and spring administration of the Strengths and Difficulty Questionnaire, grades 6 through 8, and the Youth Risk Behavior Survey administered in the spring for grade 7 students. So we did administer the Strengths and Difficulty Questionnaire. We've collected that information. We use that to identify students who are in need of immediate support. The data collected is it's analyzed and coded, and we are able to see students who present with elevated needs in a number of different domains. There is an interest in looking at a different tool going forward other than the SDQ. We have not identified a new tool for our students as of now, but we are open to looking at something other than this questionnaire, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's, I think, about 20, 25 items that students are able to complete, usually in a very short period of time. So it does give us useful information, but we are hoping to get a little bit more depth to the information that's collected. We have restructured our EIC to diversity, equity, inclusion, professional learning community. We look to revitalize that in the fall over the course of next year. Involve student these conversations. That's something that's going to take time to ramp up to. These are conversations that are difficult for adults to have, and to ask adolescents to participate in them is, it's a challenge, but it's one that's important because it does signal to students that we value not only their thoughts, but these are important topics for us to keep an eye on as a school to make sure that every member of our community feels safe, valued, and heard within it. We continue our use of Second Step in all grades with lessons taught throughout the year. We expanded it this year to essentially double the number of lessons that were implemented, and we plan to continue that next year. So we would say that's complete, but also ongoing. And we do seek to engage families by providing regular updates on SEL activities through the connection. We did not have the number of PTO meetings that we had hoped to have this year, and that's usually when I would connect parent coffee with an SEL topic, so hopefully we can expand on that in the coming school year. And that is the work that we did with the previous plan. Goals for the current plan. And Dr. Adams did ask me to signal her when to advance slides, and I noticed I've done that once so far. So Margaret, thank you so much for keeping up with me as I ramble through all of this. So looking at what we want to focus on for the next few years at Hingham Middle School in terms of school council goals. We want to expand and strengthen the role and function of our academic teams in order to better support student learning and social emotional well-being of our students. We felt that this aligns with strategic plan spokes 1, 2, and 3. So things that we are doing or have already begun to do is we've established academic teams in grade 8 for the first time since I've been in Hingham, and that's 20 years now. Grade 8 has traditionally functioned more like what you would imagine the old junior high model would be, where students are not grouped in any sort of team situation. We have introduced, created, and have rolled out academic teams, 3 academic teams in grade 8, which is the same structure as grade 6 and 7. We've been able to restructure our teaching assignments so that each academic team will have a dedicated special education liaison, which we believe is going to greatly benefit our students with any sort of learning disabilities or any sort of learning needs. So we're looking forward to the work that they're able to do on a much more focused level with the academic teams at all 3 grades. We're establishing team leaders for each of the academic teams, as well as our associated departments and special educators, so that there is more of a forum to discuss items of concern at the team level that then will get pushed up to the front office level. Those team leaders will also help steer the team meetings that take place once every 4 days for our academic teams in grades 6, 7, and 8. We've also been able to finesse our schedule, and I give all credit to our school counselors who have assisted in developing a master schedule with this in mind, where our special education liaisons will be able to be freed up on a regular basis to join the academic team meetings. We've not been able to do that on a regular basis before. This will allow our special education liaisons to be part of the important conversations about student learning as well as the social emotional aspects of student life in our school. So it gives them a greater voice and presence within the academic team. It also makes special education more part of the everyday of what we do, not something that happens alongside of general education. It kind of really meshes the gen ed and special ed worlds in a way that I'm really excited to see evolve. And we are, with these team leaders and additional people joining the team meetings, we are developing record-keeping tools and procedures that will help us to track student performance, look at the interventions that have been in place, monitor student progress. So we're going to be taking the student study team, the SST model, and bringing it down to the team level, which will happen every 4 days within the student's cycle. So looking forward to seeing how that really benefits our kids and parents, because it will help us to give them better data and information in terms of academics, but also on how students are functioning in our school, because it's more than just the grades on the report card that we have to keep an eye on at the middle school. Our second goal will be looking at expanding the existing social emotional programs and explore the possibility of the development of a therapeutic learning program at Hingham Middle School. This is work that has been started already. We spent a good deal of time last year visiting, and not just at the middle school level, but what I care about is the middle school. But we have visited a number of schools to look at what they're doing to support students in terms of therapeutic learning and the models that they have put into place. So we're looking to continue the work there. We're going to review and update the protocols and procedures that relate to our transition room, which has been in place now for a number of years, close to 10, I think. Transition room, for anyone unfamiliar with it, because it's called a number of different things depending on which district you're in, but it's a space within our school where students who might be returning from a lengthy absence for any number of reasons and need time to ramp up to full days of instruction again, it gives them a place where they can go, smaller group instruction, support on their academics, but also a bit of attention given to their emotional well-being. Students who are having difficulty getting to school on a regular basis will often access the transition room because they're in school, which is a win for us. They might not be in the classroom with their peers at that point, but we're moving them towards that. So we've been really fortunate to have the transition room at the middle school for a number of years, but we feel that it's important to periodically look at our procedures and how we identify students who need to access it. When it first started, really the biggest population that was accessing it, both at the middle school and the high school, were students who were dealing with concussions. And we have moved so far away from the world of concussions at this point. I think that it serves a very important purpose for students who are challenged in getting to school for any number of reasons. We're going to look at the second step lessons that we have selected previously and make sure that we feel that those are still relevant to our student needs based on data collected from the SDQ, Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and make any adjustments needed to make sure that the lessons that we're teaching are connected to the needs expressed by our students. As I mentioned before, we've been observing existing programs in terms of the Therapeutic Learning Center and other districts, collecting information from them and seeing what is best and appropriate for our school and district. We're going to establish a student leadership or advisory group as a forum to communicate, for students to communicate their needs and concerns to school administrators. I don't like the term school council because what it reminds me of is the popularity contest that I was familiar with as a middle school student, and that's who was on school council. I know that's antiquated, and I'm the one who needs to catch up, but I think of it more as a student leadership or advisory group, open to all, no need to be elected by your peers. There will be a vetting process so that we make sure that students who want to participate are there for the right reasons and taking it seriously. And last year we were approached by Hingham Cares to put together a Hingham Cares Day for the middle school students, something they did at the high school in the past. We are looking to continue that relationship with them in the future. They brought in a series of speakers for our kids on one day in May where they heard on topics they heard from students at the high school about the importance of getting involved in programs like SAD and making positive decisions. They heard from people in law enforcement and parents who dealt with the very serious impact of substance abuse disorders within their own homes. So we want to continue that work with them and make sure that our students know that we're listening to them and we're keeping an eye on those important things that they deal with in their own worlds. On our third goal for the coming 2 years, we're going to seek to address that absenteeism. We're going to improve student attendance and reduce the level of chronic absenteeism from 9 to 7%. I'd like to get it even lower, but I'm going to be realistic in our first stab at this and see if we can't just bring it down a little bit with some of the measures that we put in place with language in our handbook, and pay attention specifically to our students with disabilities and other student subgroups that have an elevated level of absenteeism. And by that, I mean, let's look at when and why students are absent. Do they tend to miss school on the day of an assessment because they're feeling overwhelmed? Are they missing school before and after break? And while that sometimes is because of family choices to travel, oftentimes it's because students are anxious about getting back to school and they can't get out and get into school that first day back. So really looking to discover the causes for the absenteeism, and again, to take a supportive and not a punitive stance when it comes to improving student attendance at our middle school. So things that we're going to do or have done, we're going to update the language in the handbook, develop incentive programs to reward students and teams for good or improved attendance throughout the school year. I struggle with the perfect attendance award because when you're sick, you definitely should stay home. I think we all learned that in the past 5 or 6 years, that coming to school when you're sick is not the best for anyone, but getting better at attending is important. So I don't want a student to feel that I'm in a hole that I can't get out of, and we want to recognize hard work in all respects. We're going to analyze student attendance data on an ongoing basis. That would be monthly and by term, to look at students who are coming up on that 10% threshold and take some real strong steps with the families in order to get them into school on a regular basis. I'm going to notify and meet with caregivers of students who miss more than 10% of in-session days in a month or a term. We're going to wait till the end of October to do that because it's easy to get to that 10% threshold in September when there are so few days. And we're looking at the 10% of the days that we've been in session. So that might be a student who picks up a nasty illness at the end of September. They could easily get to 10% absenteeism without thinking about it in the first few months. But we're going to keep an eye on that month to month, term to term, and continue to communicate with parents, whether it be in writing or a meeting with the students and the parents, so that we can figure out what's preventing a student from getting to school. And take advantage of our communication platforms with regular reminders about the importance of student attendance. And those are the goals and action steps for the coming school years.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any questions? No questions. All right.
Very thorough.
It's also July, I get it.
I appreciate you coming in July.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, seems very thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you for being the first, too. So
Happily.
we'll have a stream of, at each meeting, of school improvement plans from each of the schools, which will take us through probably the end of September, early October.
All right.
Yeah. All right, well, enjoy. Hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Doesn't sound like there's any more thunder out there, so I think you're in the clear to go home to your dog.
Have a great evening. Thanks very much. Take care.
We need to, sorry, Derek, one thing. We do have to vote on this. Sorry.
I
always
thought you
forget
did.
that
No, you
part.
didn't want to walk.
Yes.
I always walk away before
Sorry.
you vote.
No, it's not your fault.
I feel like
it's
I
my
was
fault.
set up this time now.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the Hingham Middle School Improvement Plan 2024 to 2026.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay. Now,
Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you
great
very
evening.
much. Okay, so it's 7.7, to receive an update on special education action plan and act as appropriate. So I believe Dr. Cataldo will be taking us through this. Thank you.
Do you mind if I sit?
No.
From here versus going up?
Nope.
Podium's been in hot use all night. All right, so thank you very much. I'm here tonight to talk about in PowerPoint form, really what our program, the overview of our program evaluation. I think it was back in March I came and presented the actual evaluation that was done in the fall. And from that, we then have built out a sort of a strategic plan, at least through the first year. We know it needs to be multi-year, but we feel we wanted to get the first year in right now for the committee, for the district, for the community, in order to start to show that we're making changes and
doing as we had promised back in the fall, using this evaluation with purpose. So maybe what we could do is go to the first slide, Dr. Adams. So one of the things that happened, excuse me, one of the things that happened obviously is that we received this evaluation, and of course there's the what works, maybe what isn't working, and then what do we do with all of that, and what changes can we make so we have more working and less not working. And so through the evaluation, we know that there are 4 definite things that we found were highlighted in the report, and I'm not going to read all of them. I'll just do a quick overview. But obviously, the tiered system of support is becoming used more readily. We're beginning to see it institutionalized much more. We know that there's been a lot of professional development and so forth. It was recognized when they came in to observe. They also noted that the instruction was for both academics and SEL, and we know that we still have more work to do with SEL, but they saw the work that's already happening. And the other piece, that universal design is starting to really take hold in the classrooms, some very creative teachers. And so they saw that as a plus for us. They recognize that there's a continuum of programs and services. We know we have a series of programs, whether it be our language-based, whether it be our CLC, whether it be our RISE and so forth. We have programs that run from preschool all the way up through high school in the threads. And they recognize that we have the various disability groups, and that we're doing very well there, but can we do more? Yes, of course we can do more, always. And then there was the commitment to inclusion in SEL, the fact that the district definitely has put their arms around it, embraced it. We will continue to do more, but at this moment they can see it, which is a good thing. And then lastly, students' IEPs, they said really provide a detailed picture of the students the way that they have been done so far. It's easy to see the strengths of our students. It's also easy to see their needs. It's obvious that if a student obviously is on an IEP because they have a disability, it's easy to locate the disability within the IEP. This is not necessarily the case in other districts. As you know, I've been through about 12 districts because being an interim, I have floated through 4 of them in the last several years. It does not happen in every district, so I really think that the staff should be complimented on the fact they are doing something that is very proactive for our students. They also recognized, of course, that the assessment data is integrated into the student performance profile. Again, that's not something that's done all the time, but it's definitely done here in Hingham. Maybe next slide, please. And then, you know what, it's not on my, I'm thinking it's advanced on mine when it didn't. So in terms of the evaluation, it came up with some areas of need, areas we need to work on. We can't sit on our laurels, and so 4 points that we've decided to share with the committee and the community include IEPs have a lot of accommodations, and they are best practice, but that doesn't mean everything that's in an IEP is applicable to the student that sits with that IEP. And so we have to be really more focused in what is in the IEP for each particular student. So if John needs one kind of skill and Mary needs another kind of skill and Kayla needs another kind of skill, those should be in the IEPs. It shouldn't be all 3 of them have the same accommodations and yet they don't need them. So I think that was really good to have that brought forward to us so we can start to hone in on how we look at our students. We also saw that IEPs include measurable data to indicate the performance levels, but doesn't consistently incorporate specific benchmark data. So we have to do some work with our staff. We'll be working on that in PD and other ways with our staff. It will start with the team chairs. It will begin to push through each of the schools with all of the liaisons and so forth. And I don't mean to have my back to the rest of the committee. I do apologize, but we looked at the school-based personnel. They do not understand all the entrance and exit criteria for our programs and services, and that will be something that will be changing. You know, it's something that the CPAC brought up. We weren't able to get to all of that this year, but it's right now, this summer, we are working on it. So that is a good thing. And we'll continue to work on it until it's done so it can be posted on the website when it's finished. I know the speech and language staff, they began working on it last spring. They're nearest to finishing right now because of that. And we're looking forward to what they have produced, and we'll be meeting with them as we get towards the fall. Data is taken, it's not consistently taken, but it's taken and it's analyzed, and they do convert it into best practices. But again, we need to do more work on that. It does say, except for programs that provide services to students on the autism spectrum disorder or students with similar needs. So we'll be doing more work, and I've sat and talked with Megan Corey, our BCBA, about that because she does the most work with the RISE program. There's a need for more frequent and in-depth training opportunities in a lot of areas, including eligibility, instructional, behavioral interventions, and so forth. We will have our team chairs this year be meeting, and I think that's further in the presentation, but just to let you know, they'll be meeting with our lawyer, our legal counsel regularly to understand all the laws behind our IEPs this year. Again, really important. Next slide, please. Then in terms of our programming, as you notice, it says that we're going to sustain ongoing development and develop infrastructure for our specialized programming. And that's the main programs that are already in existence right now. So what we need to do is, again, entrance and exit criteria. And our coordinators are currently looking into how, and have begun that process so that we can have something. I've asked them to have something by the end of the summer that we can produce and share on our websites. We need to create materials for our families and staff to support all of the information. We want to make sure we develop strategic partnerships with different organizations that will help those different programs. And right now we have approximately 4 contracts for some of our different programs that come in, such as the Landmark School, who come and support our language-based programming. And we'll have somebody helping us this year supporting our RISE program, things like that. The audit. In terms of the audit, the available curriculums in each program, we need to make sure that we can see that the programs have integrity and can build capacity. So we'll be looking at that. And then identify the staff curriculum and program model for the fiscal 26 budget. So we're already looking to next fall and what that will mean in terms of having a therapeutic learning program. You heard Mr. Smith talk about that they're looking at that at the middle school. They have some pieces of that in play. We have in each of the schools some pieces in play, but we don't have what I would call a cohesive program that we would consider it part of a thread or a program. And so this year we have to be very, very diligent and dedicate some time to making sure those programs are in place. I truly believe, if you want to talk about how to tie information together, I really believe if we create that thread of programming, therapeutic programming for our students, you'll also see some of our students who are struggling with absenteeism will find ways to come to school because those programs will help meet their needs and give them strategies and opportunities. And then if that's the case, obviously their attendance will increase, their absenteeism will decrease. And while it's not all focused on, well, will their grades get better? That's not the concern. They will get better as individuals, as students, and that will all come along hand in hand. It will take some time, but this is our first step to helping our students and recognizing that they need the assistance. Next, please. In terms of inclusive practices, we have inclusive practices, but we need to enhance and expand those instructional strategies and procedures and staffing. So we have to make sure we have the right people in the right places, sort of like when you drive a bus. You want the driver in the driver's seat, and you want your students in the other seats. You don't want it in reverse. So we want to make sure that we're looking at that. We're going to look at the DCAP with all our teachers using early release professional development time. I'm not sure everybody's looked at the DCAP. There is some very, very valuable information in there. And then again, we're looking at outline MTSS at the secondary level for the academics and social emotional learning. We want to support reviewing all our academic and SEL data and make sure it's done appropriately and make sure people are taking it appropriately, know how to read it, and know what to do with it. Excuse me. We want to look at what are the best practices for the IST across all schools. Some schools have different areas where they're strong, and some schools have areas where they really need some support. We need to regulate so that everybody has what the tools they need. We want to make sure that we develop and document the common practices for all the schools. That's not in practice right now, and it needs to happen. We want to look at the common procedures for IST across the school. So you can see we're trying to build capacity so that we know what's happening at all the elementary schools. And from the elementary schools, when they pass to the middle schools, we can understand how that connection is made. Where's the bridge? And from the middle school to the high school, again, we want that bridge. And that way we can also document what has happened to that student from the time they've entered till the time they graduate, which will make it a more productive opportunity for learning. And lastly, supporting coaching at individual schools for the programs to help implementation of MTSS, UDL, and SEL. Those are things that really need support right now to make sure our teachers have consistency, particularly, I know we keep saying the pandemic, but really coming out of the pandemic for the last few years, I think there's been a lot of change in folks who are in our classrooms. I think there's been a lot of change in how students react as students, and we want to make sure that we build the capacity in all these areas and support them to be successful. Next, please. In terms of supporting the development of strong relationships with families of students with special needs, as I said earlier, we're going to have bi-monthly meetings of team chairs to outline what would be common procedures, scripts that they can use at meetings. And we don't mean where they have a script, they just read it, but understand if a request is made of one thing, what should our response be to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the parents, meeting the needs of the students. So our legal counsel is going to be working with our team chairs once a month. And then we'll have a second meeting in which I'll be working with our team chairs a second time. And that way they'll have the legal aspect and they'll have how to apply the legal aspect into the schools itself. And we feel that will be very helpful, and then make them responsible, excuse me, make them responsible for helping the liaisons for those review years learn the same procedures and make sure that it is structured throughout the schools so everybody is on the same page for everything, whether it be timelines, whether it be content, whether it be how we use the IEP, and so forth. We want to make sure it has commonality. So when parents leave elementary and go to middle school, they don't think they're starting a new language. We want to make sure they can see the connection. So we'll have that. We're going to support the team chairs again in sharing out all that information. We are updating the special education handbook right now. It's in process. We're working on it this summer. We're hoping to have it completed in the next couple of weeks so that it can go back to Dr. Adams and she can take a look at it so that it will be usable for this fall. That's our goal. That's our target. We really think it's important that teachers have something. It's not that we're having a huge number of new teachers. I think even our teachers, our seasoned teachers who have been with us, it doesn't hurt to review. I don't know about you, but when I step away from making a recipe for a really long time, when I come back, I have to look at that recipe, make sure I don't leave anything out. It's the same thing with the handbook. It's long, it has lots of important information, and we want to make sure that the staff has the content they need. We want to look at curating resources for our families. We want to make sure that we can support understanding of special education programs and student needs for everybody. And we are updating the website, so there'll be more information on it. That's a work in progress that we'll be working on through the summer. We will be creating a calendar of events and programs. I know I worked with the CPAC, and they created entire years worth of calendars for our community, and last year they had some spectacular programs, and I know, no doubt we'll have the same thing again this year, including one session that will be for parents about the new IEP to make sure they understand it. And again, I can't say enough, the new IEP I think is far superior to the one that we're putting to bed, really is. So I think that's really critical. We want to make sure we can help families understand how we support their students and how they can support their students and how it is a partnership. Next, please. Then we want to look at the professional development. We can't just assume by osmosis everybody will learn everything. So we have to look at the professional development, and we want to make sure that we're implementing things that are meaningful, not drive-by PD, but meaningful PD that we return to, and we look at how it's connecting with what our work is and what our mission is, and then continue to improve upon it so that we can help our students have improved outcomes. We'll be implementing the ongoing professional development during the early release days. I think what you heard Dr. Adams talk about earlier is that paraprofessionals will now be included in that training. I think long overdue. It's going to be really exciting what we can offer them. We'll be implementing orientation for the new paraprofessionals this year as they come in the door. It's not go to the classroom, you'll learn on the spot. We're going to help by starting with an orientation, giving them something to walk away with, and then go back into the class and then bring them back for PD through the year. I think that will really strengthen their role in the classroom and help them connect with the students, connect with the teachers, and connect with the school. We will have a handbook for our paraprofessionals to identify best practices in supporting orientation. We will also support the implementation of the new IEP. Now, you know that in the spring, we had 3 sessions for that. We will have something else this fall also as a reminder so that we can help teachers who've gone away over the summer who said, oh, new IEP, yes. We can bring them back in for a reminder of how to do it, because that will be rolling over shortly when we roll over Aspen. And then the team chairs, as I said, they'll be meeting monthly. One of the things we like to do is review case studies with them to help them how we can look at cases that are in their own hands that they work with, so that they can think on the spot and work, click with what has to happen with the law. And I think that part will come from working with legal counsel as well as some of the things we do afterward. So I think it's great that we're going to have that opportunity to help them. And that I was like, wait a minute, I think there's one more. This is what happens when you're not looking at the screen. So I'm very excited, though, because I feel like we've spent time doing the evaluation, and it came back, and it seemed like a long time before we got it to school committee. But I really see the opportunity for us to now hone in on what we need to do and share it out with our staff and teachers and community. And this is the way I can see it all starting to tie together, and I think it's really exciting. And as we go through the year and we look at those goals that we have set aside, that we will then begin to obviously take care of them. We will be able to check off we've done some of them, and then at the same time we need to begin to look at what year 2 will look like, whether we need to carry some over or we're able to put those to bed and start with the next set.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
I think you'll see in the longer plan, longer document, we've outlined those 4 areas. I think when we tried to take, as you can remember, the program evaluation had a whole list of sort of needs. So we tried to categorize those around these 4 topics, and then outline what we thought was reasonable for that first year. I don't think Dr. Cataldo shared that our intent is to come back to the school committee and share at least 3 times during the school year an update on our progress, so you can see how far we've gotten, or what areas we might be still struggling to move forward. But our intent is to share at least 3 times those updates with the school committee, as well as the SPED subcommittee and CPAC as well. That would be part of our ongoing communication to say this is what we've been able to accomplish thus far.
Questions, Matt?
Thank you. So a couple comments and questions. Thank you, Dr. Cataldo, and thank you, Dr. Adams, for calling that out, because I think that more detailed document, I mean, it's not a 400-page document, but it has, what we had spoken about certainly at the CPAC meeting, a grid, which is a lot of the bullet points that were up there, but it has, here's a specific action item or objective, which is close to an action item. Here's the responsible party. Here's a timeline. I do think, at least with CPAC, having that be sort of a shared document would be useful and important. And I think as we're going along with those updates, adding a column that measures the progress, shows the action steps that have already been taken. So I appreciated seeing that. You touched on this, Dr. Adams. I was trying to go back in March, or whenever you first presented this, I think it was March. There were 14 recommendations that were the initial recommendations coming out of the couple of months of review. Would we say that the detailed action plan covers all of those? If it doesn't, is it because some of them are longer term and they aren't reasonable to get after this year, or are there some that, given additional time spent, we said doesn't meet, I don't know, isn't as important as some of these others that we want to focus on.
I'll begin by saying they're all important.
Yep.
That's the first thing that's crucial. We were looking at what we could begin working on this year that we could have some closure on and show that we are moving forward. Something like therapeutic programming, it's going to take all year this year to prepare. It's not just us saying we need a program. It's not just us putting down on paper what that program needs to look like. It needs to be coordinated with your budget and with the town and your vote and so forth. So we know that there's a lot involved. You need to hire staff. You need to have locations for these programs. So that's obviously a big piece. That kind of thing would be ongoing all year, but would then be pushed into the second year as it comes to the table. So that would be an example of something we're starting now that goes beyond. Something that would be very concrete, sequential, that's going to be a sort of a one-stop activity. Doing the handbook. We will finish the handbook for the staff. It was started. We are cleaning up. We're going to update it, make sure any laws that have changed in the last several years are in there. But we will then provide that handbook out. Now, does that mean that document, which it's not small, it's like this, does that mean that once it goes out, it's done, we're not going to look at it again? No. Well, first of all, you're going to have new staff every year, so you have to look at it. Second of all, I think it's really important. I sent out a weekly message to the staff. It would be the kind of thing where I would refer to the handbook, and in the handbook on page 26, you'll find this piece of information that's critical when you're running an IEP meeting, something like that. So in that respect, that might be a one and done kind of activity, but it has long-term implications. So that's why I'm saying what we put into this document right now, some of it, most of it is really completion of this 1 year, but some of it will carry over to next year because there's a part 2 or there's a part 3. At the same time, we might find something we start now won't complete at the end of the year, and then that will be something that we'll be bringing back in a report to you saying that's something we'll be doing in year 2. We've started it now, but it's stalled because of ABC, and now this is how we've corrected the situation, and we'll be pushing it to year 2. Would that happen with all these things? Absolutely not.
Yep.
Many of them, I believe, will be completed during the first year, as they're stated.
I think you would find that there are areas that we haven't touched. I think we've tried to touch as many as possible. For example, one area I'm thinking of is collaboration between gen ed and SPED teachers.
Yeah.
You've heard about PLCs at the elementary, where there's opportunity for SPED teachers to collaborate, and PLCs with gen ed teachers. You heard tonight from Mr. Smith about the plan for the middle school. The high school still remains a place where we've got some ideas, but the schedule at the high school is a harder rock to lift, and so that's a piece that we've got to work on. So that, I think, at the high school we haven't addressed that piece. Where are the opportunities to do? There might be some creative ways at department meetings or using early release. I spoke to Dr. Bucky about an idea I had about bringing teachers together. So there's some work being done behind the scenes, but I think that's an area that's not necessarily reflected strongly here, but there's some work being done behind the scenes to see if we can continue to further some of those areas. So have we met all of them?
Yeah.
Probably not, but we took the ones that we felt that we could move forward immediately, and that would have impact. I think many of the things that are outlined here will have immediate impact. And we'll continue to evolve as we get going. We'll continue to evolve and have to we'll reshape these objectives for whatever the next step is.
That's helpful. So the suggestion would be, I think, maybe highlighting sort of below these 4 action item areas, the several areas that we know are important in addition to these, that we might be doing some work on now, but we know are in the future. I think having that on the list, I think especially for the community, would be helpful to have it comprehensively, even if it's, again, just a list of the 4 or 5 other things. So that would be a suggestion. I think you just answered my, final question, two final questions. So let me ask the one that you didn't answer yet. Are we anticipating that this is going to be a yearly updated plan? Or do we want to get through this year and then decide if we want to do another sort of annual plan or a longer-term 3-year plan?
Yeah, we originally wrote a 3-year,
Yes.
but then we felt that we were doing so, and we weren't sure if it was realistic.
Sure.
So we said, let's scale this back, do 1 year. It will also allow us to get feedback, more feedback on the plan in the fall. I mean, we released this in March. It was the end of the year, and it was a race to the end of the year.
Yep.
I think that'll allow us to hear and have more discussions around the program evaluation and develop out. Our hope was to do a 3-year, but we felt we needed to take a step back
Yep.
in doing so, and it'll help us do some more planning and get more stakeholders involved.
Mm-hmm.
That's helpful. And so the final question, which I think, like I said, you answered. I mean, you can kind of think about plans in a variety of ways. One might be a more audacious, goal setting that that you're probably not going to achieve. You're definitely not going to achieve everything, and you might achieve some of it. Another might be, important things that we need to get after, but we have a higher likelihood of hitting. And I'm not suggesting that one is better than the other. I think there are different ways to come up with a plan. I think what I'm hearing is this is more of we know we need to make improvement. We want to be very specific, tackle that in a very specific way. And we know we're not going to hit every single goal that we have in here, but we feel pretty confident that what we've laid out, we can get after the majority of it, and we will have progress as a result of that. And how much progress that is, we don't know. Is that the right way to sort of think about this? And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other.
Absolutely, I think it was a good summary.
Better than I could have done. And the other thing is to know that it wasn't something we filled out for the sake of filling out. We really did this thinking, what could we realistically do this coming year during 24-25 that would benefit students, is the first thing I say, benefit the students, but also work with our faculty, share with our community so that they feel confident things are going forward as well.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? Jen?
I'm getting ahead of myself with this question.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to ask again. For the therapeutic learning program, are you thinking one for each level, elementary, middle, and high? Or, I mean, it sounds like the work is already starting to kind of be done at the middle school, but
I would
a
love
little
that.
foreshadowing of
It
that.
would foreshadow. It'd be great if we could do all 3 at once. I think you're going to have to look at your budget and look at your capacity and look also at where the number of students are pooled, so that if the majority of our students are struggling in the middle school, start with that. If you have sort of a balance of struggling, is there a way we can do more than one? But what you don't want to do is stress your staff and stress your schools by putting too much out there at once. That would be the only thing I would
And the high
urge.
school has some programming already, and so it's strengthening that program and then making the connection with middle and high and elementary. So and providing support to continue to grow the program at the high school and be receptive to the needs of the students. So.
And I had one other just clarification on the para orientation. You said you would do it at the beginning of the year and then quarterly. So if somebody were to start in, say, March, their first day is March 1st, would they immediately get an orientation, or would they have to wait to the next? I think I didn't understand how it was. So
Our vision is to sort of pool a certain number and then have a session,
Right. Okay.
Which we did with substitutes. We sort of pooled a certain number and then we held a little training for them. So that was our intent. So that's our goal. That
certainly is.
Yeah, but our goal also is to be fully staffed by the beginning of the school year and do that orientation at the beginning of the school year.
And just as reassurance, if we ever found somebody had to come in unexpectedly and it was sort of a standalone, we wouldn't say, well, now you'll wait 5 months till you can have the opportunity. No, we would find a way to meet with that person, whether in the beginning, the day before they start, or after school several times, some way, we would find a way to share the information with them to make sure they felt they were ready to enter the program.
Yeah, and that's one of the purposes of the handbook. It provides some immediate information. We've talked about also, is there a way to screencast some training and be able to provide some modules that you can immediately access? Is there a way to do this online? So those are goals that we have as we move forward. I always feel like an in-person is always best, but there are other ways to get information to new staff.
Yeah, and we might be able to film what we do in the fall as a video. I'm sorry, I'm dating myself. I'm so sorry. We won't film, we'll video what we're doing. So if somebody came later, they could at least watch part of it, and then somebody can sit with them. We'll figure it out. But the point being that if somebody came, you know, selectively one person in March, we wouldn't make them wait.
Okay, thank you.
Will these handbooks be shared with us? The paraprofessional handbook
We
and the special-
certainly can do that.
I know we don't vote on them, but I'd be very curious to see them.
Yeah.
Michelle or Carrie? No? Okay. To the therapeutic, actually to Jen's point, so we've been talking about this and I'm really excited about this. And it actually struck me when, who was it? Was it Derek had mentioned the transition room, and it used to be for concussions, but now we're seeing it significantly impacted since COVID. So I always ask the question, is it really a COVID thing? Are we seeing the increase in the need for therapeutic programming because of COVID? I know that there's some, and being on the wellness committee, I know the cell phones are having, social media is having a huge impact. I'm just trying to figure out like the numbers and how, do we have data to support that? Because to the other point where we have to make budget discussions, you're hitting on my two passions. I think that we can do it in such a way that we can do it in-house and we can do it better because we have amazing educators here rather than sending our students out, because I would much rather keep them in-house than have to send students out. And I think what I have seen, or at least anecdotally, I've seen students who have been going out of district, and a lot of it has been because of the social emotional impacts that and needs that we can't necessarily address at this point. So I'm going to be curious to see how this kind of evolves, and you know, just keeping that in mind and having the discussions with the people in the town so that everybody understands. Yes, this is really important from a budget perspective, but it's going to save us in the long run. And secondly, it's the right thing to do for our students.
Well, that's, and you've heard me say it before, what are we saying to our children if we say you have to go away, we can't help you in your own community? So I'll just, that will be, you'll hear me saying that all year till I leave. In fact, tomorrow morning, Dr. Adams and I will be at the superintendent's meeting. We're presenting down there, and that's one of the topics we're presenting about is make your own programs. Own your children. Keep them home. It's where they belong. If we can do it, we should. It's really to their benefit. As far as the question, what is really causing this, I don't think there's any one piece. I believe social media and telephones have really begin to show, you know, we've been beginning to see all the research that shows the detriment that it's had on students. So I'm sure that's part of it. I also believe that the pandemic it contributed to what we're seeing. It's not the sole reason because we had a pandemic, but a lot of families became very disorganized during that time, and it was really hard for everybody to balance so many things, and it was pressure-packed for parents, and no doubt it was pressure-packed for students. So that was one contributing factor. Social media is another contributing factor. Just the fact that there's so many demands on students today, I think, is another contributing factor. I think we could go through a list and say all of these were parts of what happens. And lack of sleep, you know, our students aren't sleeping. Some of that might be because they're on their cell phones all night. I know my own child would do that. I could hear it dinging in 3 in the morning through the walls. But the reality is we know what's going on outside of school. How can we help support them when they're in school? How can we give them a good self-worth to say and maybe look at, put your cell phone down for an hour, let's just focus on face-to-face contact. Makes a big difference. So I think there'll be a lot of things we'll look at this year. And then will we take a look at the mental health issues of what's been going on in the district, and how can we help students maybe come back by having some of these programs? How can we reduce some of the angst going on in the schools by having these programs? Those will all contribute as we come back this year. I think you're going to see a tighter group of leaders in your district this year, a better sense of our teachers really committed to our students. I'm very excited about the opening of school.
Thank you. I think the community as a whole is struggling, adults as well.
Yeah.
And adults, there are resources and we put them out, but I would always tell people it's okay to not be okay, and you need to reach out to somebody to have a discussion with, and I'm glad that we're able to do that for the students here,
Yeah.
but always, stress the importance for the adults as well.
Huge message for families. It's okay to ask for help. I think that's going to be a huge message we have to make sure is loud and clear for them.
And in the same vein, we have to strengthen the ability of our gen ed teachers to adapt and support students in their classrooms. We've already contracted and had Jessica Minahan work with the Foster this spring, and she's coming back next year, and we're really excited to have her support. She's a very well-known local expert and author of a great book called The Behavior Code, and she'll be coaching staff and also providing some professional development so we can build our own understanding, both as leaders and as teachers, to support needs in the classroom. Because in the gen ed classroom, we need these therapeutic programs for students who need, but those students in those therapeutic learning programs, the goal is to get them back into a gen ed. So we need to also re-envision what we're doing in our gen ed programs to support the students as well. So this is like a long-term goal. This is several years in the making. We're just getting started in that work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I see one hand up. Diane DiNapoli.
Can I just, sorry.
Oh, sorry,
Can I
Michelle, I didn't see your
Can
name.
I say something?
Yes.
Sorry, just as we're having this conversation, I'm also thinking, just to add to the list of things you need to think about in this, is also the impact on the staff as well, and what we can do to provide them the supports, and when they need additional resources, what we can do to support them, because, they're in the classrooms with the kids and driving the buses with the kids. And, so I think it's just another thing to consider.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Diane DiNapoli, if you could state your name and address, please.
Hi, Diane DiNapoli, 16 Gardner Street. I'm just speaking as a resident tonight, not CPAC involved. I have two questions. One was more of a question, the other is more of a comment. I have to go back now. On the issue of the plan, I know there's a larger plan that hasn't been shared publicly, sort of the work plan for the special ed eval. Is that plan based on findings in the report only, eval, or is that sort of district-wide? Like if there's something that's a district improvement plan or a piece of legislation that's coming in, would that be marked in the special ed plan if it impacted students with disabilities, or might that be somewhere else? I guess I'm trying to figure, if we look at that plan, and that sounds like it's going to be a beefy plan, is that everything that that would affect students with disabilities? So we can really have sort of one document that we look at and kind of, as Matt said, understand, are we making progress? What's this year? What's next year? Just trying to get a sense. I haven't been able to look at it, so just wanted to see kind of what's in the plan, and can that be sort of the go-to for special ed improvement? And then the second point was on the kind of the programming. I think it's wonderful to think about therapeutic programming. Obviously, I think it's sadly very needed. I think just before we really jump into that, it would be very good to clear up some questions maybe on the programs that already exist. Do you have detailed descriptions online? Do you have highlights of student success in the programs that already exist, CLC, RISE? As a mother of someone in CLC, when I was thinking about putting my child in the program, there was nothing online that I could go to kind of get a sense of what is this about? What's the typical profile? So I know Allison and I talked about the websites being revamped. This would really be a time to think about giving character. What do these programs do? What are some successes? And then in the next, 8 months or 6 months, when people are looking, what's the success with the programming you have already? They are much more inclined to think that another program, like a therapeutic program, would be beneficial if they saw how many students are in RISE, how many are in CLC, what's the flavor, what's success, who are the teachers? Really paint a picture of what we have and show it with pride, because I think there's some great programming. And I just think I would love to be able to explain better when people say, what is CLC? What is that? kind of, what is it? Go to the website, this is what it is. So, that's it, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to answer?
Great,
So I'm going to answer Diane, that you might have already signed off, but we are working on the entrance and exit criteria right now. Last week we were working on it, this week we're working on it. We're trying to get it all put together by the end of the summer so it can go up on the website along with descriptions of the programs. As far as success stories, I'm not quite sure what you're thinking about because we would never highlight a particular student for FERPA rules, but as far as talking about students where they went on to once they left a program, we might be able to specify that. But the idea is that there will be descriptors of the programs, not little, blips. There'll be a description, a meaty description, along with entrance and exit criteria of what we feel a student should have to enter the program and what would demonstrate that they've successfully met what they need to be able to join general education and not worry about faltering, but continuing that success as they return to the general education classroom. So I think that's really important. I think those changes are right now in the works. We've all are working on these things this summer so that we can start to get them up.
Thank you. What else? All right, so I think we have.
Sorry,
go ahead.
did we answer the first question as well?
I think it does both.
Yeah, okay.
For example, I think in the program evaluation, it did not talk, I don't recall it talking about the new IEP.
Right,
And you can see in this, in
Yeah.
our outline that we did outline the new IEP.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it tries to do both, to
So
be
it's not
receptive.
intended to capture every single thing in the world, but it's certainly probably the best document going forward if one were to look
Yes.
and say, what is the district trying to do to improve special education? This document would be the most
Yeah,
comprehensive.
so it tried to capture major themes from the program evaluation and receptive to what we were seeing in the district. For example, they mention SEL, but I think we've clearly heard and seen this year that we have students who are struggling and need a different program and may go out of district. And in many cases, it's important to know that there are very few therapeutic settings out of district anyway for students. So there are less and less options because every district is struggling with the needs of these students. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we have an action to take. Do we? Yes. Are we acting on this one or no?
Yes, didn't you say?
Yeah, to vote on it? So to receive an update. And
That's
act as appropriate,
appropriate.
okay, yep. So are we voting on the first, because it says that it's the 3-year plan, or are we approving a 1-year plan?
A 1 year.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the special education action plan for the 2024-2025 school year.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen? Aye. Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next two, 7.8 and 7.9, to review kids in action guidelines, actually, yeah, no, they're separate. To review kids in action guidelines and act as appropriate. So I saw Jackie Sansone online. I'm not sure if you are taking this, Dr. Adams, or if Jackie's taking it for us.
Yeah, or Carrie, do you want to say anything, or do you want me to speak to it?
Yeah, I can just go quickly through and just if I miss anything, please jump in.
Okay.
So for Kids in Action, salary negotiations met on Friday to review these. The committee updates them every year. The changes are in the document in red. The major ones are the ability to use sick time for parental leave, that's new. Additional employee protection language. We memorialized prep time for Kids in Action employees, and that's something that's already happening, but we've included it in the document. We added paid professional development offerings, and we increased the hourly rate.
And the one major change was, you'll see in the old one, it was more than 24 hours, and then there was less than 24 hours. This is now more than 20. The reason for that change is because 20 is sort of the indicator when an employee is eligible for benefits, healthcare benefits. So we thought that that was cleaner, and it has very little to no impact on the employees itself. The employees kind of fall kind of nicely in those two categories. There are probably a few exceptions, so we think we're okay. We're required anyway to give employment benefits for any employee over 20 hours.
Any questions? Okay. Shall we approve these?
Yes.
Carrie, would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I'll make an motion to approve the Kids in Action guidelines.
I will second.
For the 24-25, sorry, the 23-24 school year. Or sorry, 24-25.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, so then, Carrie, are you taking on 7.9 as well? To review interventionist guidelines and act as appropriate?
Yep, again,
Okay.
we're updating them as we do every year. This group has petitioned the Department of Labor Relations, so we anticipate we'll be meeting them at the bargaining table soon. So we made some minimal changes for now, recognizing that we'll make more later on. Again, the changes are in red. We added sick days. We allowed the use of sick time for parental leave. We added an additional personal day. We defined the work day and work year. We added some employee protection language, and we increased the hourly rate by 3%. And Margaret, if you want to add anything else.
Nope, that was it.
Okay.
Any questions?
I found them.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, so do you want to make a motion, Carrie?
Sure. I will make a motion to approve the interventionist guidelines for the 24-25 school year.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, thank you.
That's
Seven-
Carrie.
Yeah, I'm also an aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carrie. I apologize.
Just left off minutes.
Yes, I apologize.
I see you, Carrie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
Jen's gonna take over.
She's not.
7.10, to appoint Dr. Margaret Adams to the Board of Directors of South Shore Educational Collaborative. So this is just a requirement that we do every year. Dr. Adams sits on the board meetings and provides us an update, so we just have to officially appoint her annually. Does anybody have any questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Dr. Margaret Adams to the Board of Directors for the South Shore Educational Collaborative.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, thank you. Okay, 7.11, to approve grants and donations and act as appropriate. So there are a few. Dr. Adams, I'm not sure if you're taking us
Sure.
through.
There are two funded by the high school PTO. One is for a stipend of $2,000 for a staff member to serve next year as a coordinator for the community service requirement for ninth grade. And we're grateful for the PTO for funding that as a pilot moves forward. And as well as a stipend, this is a yearly stipend that they have supported on an ongoing basis of $5,000 to support the peer tutoring homework club that meets in the evenings. As well, we're thankful for the high school PTO support of that program as well.
Any questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to accept the PTO-funded stipend in the amount of $5,000 for peer tutoring homework club.
I will second.
Any questions, further questions? No. All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Second one.
I will make a motion to accept the PTO-funded stipend in the amount of $2,000 for community service coordinator for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thank you to the PTOs for their generosity.
Thank you. All right, 7.12, to approve surplus and act as appropriate. We do have one item here.
Yes, I believe these are mostly history text.
You'll see by the copyright they're quite dated or have no value, so this is just to allow for the disposal of those texts.
I will make a motion to declare surplus items listed above in the memo to authorize the Executive Director of Business and Support Services to dispose of them at the least cost to Hingham.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally? Aye. Jen?
Aye.
Michelle? Carrie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you. All right, so that's new business. Item 8, subcommittee and project reports and warrants signed. Matt?
I have none.
Tim?
I have none. I think we're looking to get the educational programming committee started toward the end of August, so we'll look forward to that.
Ally?
Same, nothing to report. We are looking to reschedule the rescheduled policy meeting for sometime in August.
Jen?
Just the next finance facilities meeting will be August 13th at 8:30 a.m. And the warrants are signed, which is, because Sherry's not here, so we'll put them in the packet for next time. Michelle? Nope.
Nothing to report.
Carrie?
Nothing new.
Okay, and I just have one update. I met with Dr. Bucky. We had a meeting with some of the people who were part of the wellness committee, talking about the pilot that had happened this current year and taking Dr. Bucky through that as well. So that meeting just recently happened for him to give some thought to scheduling for those types of programs going forward. So anything else within 48 hours? No, we have a few school committee meetings coming up. We've got July 24th at 6:30, Monday, August 5th. That's our regularly scheduled school committee meeting at 6:30. Then August 26th, right before school starts at 6:30 as well. Item 10 is to adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session. You want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purposes of to approve minutes from the executive session held on June 17th, June 26th, and June 28th, 2024, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
I so declare.
And to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, individual, and the chair so declares.
I so declare. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Michelle? Hang on. That's okay. Okay.
Did you leave already?
They were all already gone. Yep, okay. And I'm an aye as well. All right, we're adjourned.